I insulated the garage so I can actually turn that off for a little bit without freezing in here. So, at the end of the last video, I had kind of screwed up the car and I didn't know how. Essentially, I went to start the car and it would just crank. The fuel pump would come on for a little bit and then it would just kind of taper out. And I thought one of my injectors was open, and doing some testing here yesterday, I was cranking the car. You can hear injectors tick for a little bit, but I don't think that's my issue. Let me show you exactly why. So first things first is the actual problem itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this and just listen closely. Hear that? The little, that's the injectors. So what happens is, as soon as I do that, I get fuel pressure and then the fuel pressure drops. And what I think is happening is I'm like 99.99% sure that when I did the tidying up of my wiring, I screwed the pooch a bit. And the reason why is because if you take a look at these, you can see a lot of these wires are like pre-stripped, which is good for wiring, but it's bad for whenever you're doing this. Essentially what I think I've done is I have created a short somewhere. The good thing is I did check these fuses. All the fuses are intact, so I didn't pop a fuse. I'm pretty sure something's just grounding out in one of the wiring looms, probably the MSX loom, because that's the one that handles the injectors and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut this out. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off all these little extra bits so that they are not actually able to ground to anything. And then we should be good. I'm not sure, we will see. I don't have the tool to actually depin these yet, and that's the reason why it's just kind of sitting the way that it is. I'm a little particular about the way that I do my car. Some people call it stubborn. I call it a pain in the ass. Essentially, I have a particular way that I want to go about actually building the Z, and I kind of subverted that by getting this place, forcing me to actually get this car running. I have a certain way that I've wanted to do everything, and doing the shortcut way just to get it running kind of screwed up the whole process. The battery is supposed to get relocated behind the passenger seat, and that's also where all of the ECU stuff is supposed to go as well. Now the issue here is that the ECU wiring was not long enough to actually be able to put it back there, so I couldn't relocate the battery. And I didn't really have the time or want to put in the effort because I was spending so much time already working on other things on the car, and I was already way overdue as far as getting the car running, that I didn't even, I didn't want to go through and actually extend the wiring harness. But that is something that we're going to be doing here. And I'm putting this artificial limit of getting the car inspected just so that I actually get something done on the car, so that it's not just kind of sitting here in limbo and it's actually able to be driven when it's time to be driving it. But I say that knowing full well that I'm actually going to take the car apart. So essentially, this is my long way of explaining that it's very possible that I'm not going to be taking this to get inspected today. But let me stop rambling. Let me fix this injector thing, I think. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. I didn't hear the clicking. I think that's a good sign. Let's check for fuel pressure. No fuel pressure still, which is not good. But hey, I didn't hear the clicking, which is better. Hey, I mean, that's a better sign than we've had pretty much this entire time. Oh no, I do still hear the clicking. Oh shit. Yeah, we got something else going on here. And I don't know what. Don't know what. Yeah. So I think the reason why it's doing this is it's only running on like 2 cylinders, and it's not going to start on 2 cylinders. So I think it's time to take the top of the engine apart. That's pretty much all the wiring stuff, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna check a couple other things, but I'm like 90% sure now that it's not wiring. But I'm gonna check some of the other relays and stuff, even though all the injectors are on one, so yeah. I don't think there really is anything to check at this point. It's just a matter of can we get it done. So time to take the top of the engine apart, I guess, so we can get to the injectors. We're gonna design an intake off of this. I'm not doing this all again. Alright, this test is the fuel filter being flipped because it had better flow in the opposite direction. Alright, so I don't think we can run that fuel filter with this fuel pump. I'm going to remove the fuel filter out of the whole equation, and if it works, that means we can't have a fuel pump, or we need to replace a fuel pump, which I already have, so we're just going to have to jump to that. Alright, so I have made an interesting discovery. I went, because I was having issues with my fuel pressure, oh my god, you know I was having issues with the fuel pressure. I was noticing the fuel pressure was dropping really quick, and after I swapped the ends on the fuel filter, it wasn't draining nearly as quick. So what I ended up doing is I gutted out the fuel filter. So there's not a filter in there. Essentially, it's just a can with fuel inside of it. And I checked it, and it was improving until it wasn't, and then it dropped very quickly like it did before. What I ended up doing is I hooked up the computer here, and I went to our injector and spark test modes, which is very helpful that Megasquirt has something like this, so that you don't have to futz around with shorting out pins and stuff. So in our injector test mode, which is under test modes up here in the top right, we can actually toggle our fuel pump. And what I was going to look for were leaks, like a really small leak or something, but if you listen once I turn this on, you'll hear the pop. You'll actually be able to hear what the problem is. It's going to be in this area. One of our injectors sounds like it's just dumping fuel into the intake, which is not good at all. And I've done this like 3 times, so there's at least a cup of fuel just chilling in there. So I'm gonna do a fuel cut and crank, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna undo this and figure out which injector it is, which ought to be fun. Actually, this is an injector test mode, so I'm curious, how are we supposed to test injectors? Oh, coil testing. Oh, here we go, injector testing. So it looks like I now have my pressure back, but some of the cylinders aren't firing, and I know all the injectors are working, at least electronically. I don't know if they're actually squirting out fuel or not, but we now have pressure while cranking around where we need to be. I might drop it just a little bit more, but yeah, we're looking kind of good. The next thing we got to look into is why we're apparently not getting spark on some of these.
12 seconds later.
I just figured out it's a cold start in Richmond. I'm stupid. It's really cold out here. I've never started the car in this cold of weather, so that would make a lot of sense. Like, really cold. Okay. Cool.
48 hours later.
I went ahead and I ordered this guy, which is the tool we're going to be able to use to depin our plug, called a D-sub depinning tool. How it works is like this. So we find a wire, like this one here, and we go in. We're both pinning that out, like that. And we just repeat that process for all of these until it looks something like this. Much thinner. Now all I have to do is one of these, I don't know, this is going to something down here. That's all I know. He's up here. Alright. Now we just got to do all that a second time with this. It looks like this. And with that, everything here is officially rewired, or unwired, I guess technically would be the term. We have both harnesses here. We have one wire coming out of each. This one for the fuel pump relay, and this one for the TAC output. So now this should be significantly easier to fit down in our little channel here. But the way this was before was it was stuck out to like here. That's why it's pushed all the way out. But now with these two being the way they are, it's gonna sit basically where it should. I cut the carpet right here so that it can come out. I'm gonna go ahead, run these guys under everything and button it up. Now that the ECU is in its temporary place, we can discuss the real issue here. I gotta turn off the heater first. So, here's the deal. I technically, I think, can get this inspected. Issue is, I can't actually afford to do that at the moment. So, unfortunately, this video is gonna end once again without the car getting inspected. Not because it can't necessarily, but because I can't. And just to show you, the issue I was having with the car actually starting was a cold start fuel issue. So I'm actually curious to see now if it'll start. No, still too low. That's not surprising, but that might cause an issue. So I think we're gonna move on past inspection and just go into everything else that we have here in the car. So in the coming weeks, look forward to us getting started on the 911, as well as tidying up the Z. We got to get rid of all the little bits. We got to put the interior back in. We got a whole bunch of different stuff we got to do. So there's plenty of content still to come, and I value you guys' time, and I appreciate you guys watching these videos. So I'm not just going to put a whole bunch of BS out there. This video, I really just wanted to show what's going on here. I really did want to get the car inspected, but one, I don't think my defroster technically functions since I don't have the heater core hooked up. So that might cause an issue with it being the temps that it is right now. Usually whenever I get my cars inspected, which is like around like March, May time of year, so it's not cold or anything, so it's usually a lot easier for stuff like that to go unnoticed. Unfortunately, that's not the case this time around. So, yeah, with all that being said, we have quite a bit of work to do here to get Miso perfect. But once it gets warm, I will be so happy that I'll be able to take this out. On the next video, I do need to still get that's the other thing. I need to be able to get some more welding wire to be able to weld up the fenders. So that will probably be what we're doing over the weekend. So that will be next week's video, is getting these fenders welded up. Then we'll probably, the following week, move on to the interior and possibly get started on the Porsche, getting it lifted up and actually inspecting the engine closely, because I've really just looked at it from the hatch, which is really not at all. It's legit this much of the engine that you can see, which is nothing because a third of the car is an engine. So yeah, as always, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. If you liked it, please do hit the like button down below. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing, hitting that bell icon next to it as well. and clicking all so you get notified whenever I drop new videos. And if you want to support just a little bit more, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/FatalRPM and support just that little bit more. Whenever I do merch drops and stuff, I'm going to be doing them over there. I tried the whole website thing for a little bit there, and we're just not there yet. So seeing as how this is a much more feasible option for me, anything that I do, especially like when it starts getting warm, I'll probably put the Boosted Bean shirt up there, because that is definitely a warmer weather shirt. I miss the holiday season this time of year. So when we loop back around, we'll probably get a redesigned Merry Boostmas hoodie. And yeah, but with that being said, I want to thank you again for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, shit.